Today's speech, my name is Pat. Today's speech is, who is the culprit for this crazy amount of unpaid college debt in America today? It is the forefront, or it should be the forefront of most conversation amongst teenagers age 17 and above. Their parents, most taxpayers, local and state, federal governments, and anybody concerned about tomorrow or what tomorrow may look like. From a personal financial standpoint, that is. How to pay for college. How to pay off that debt you created by going to college. And will you have a job tomorrow if none of this ever gets figured out? How do we get to this point with college debt being the largest debt to consumers in the United States? Who's the culprit? Well, we're going to take a drive into the world of higher education and break it down into more manageable parts to see if we can detect who the culprit is. Maybe the breadcrumbs of history will provide us some insight into this quandary. I hope to unravel the question and provide a broad but understandable perspective on this topic that should be at the forefront of every student's thoughts. We're going to start with, when did college begin in the United States? Well, there's a difference between colleges and universities. Colleges are generally a 2-year degree, where universities were always a 4-year degree. The lines have gotten blurred over the years, but the first university actually started was Harvard University in 1636. But that's long before debt came into the picture. So let's roll forward about 200 years. Around 1862 with the Morrill Act, or Morrill Act, named after a senator, where he created state colleges by land grants, by giving 130,000 acres to every state at the time in the Union, so they could sell off the acreage, earn money to start state colleges. But, okay, that's when colleges began, but that's not really when debt began. But how has the importance and the need for college changed over the years? Well, our forefathers and them and theirs back in the 1617, even the 1800s, recognized that if we want to be a free America, everyone's individual, they have to be smart enough to read, write, and understand what everybody's talking about, or it's not going to work. So they always wanted everybody to be educated, most everybody. There were some issues along the way. But it really came into a serious need or desire for it in 1952 when the Russians put Sputnik into outer space. And they're like, well, wait a minute, all my borders are safe, but what about up there? We got to get busy here, boys, because we're going to lose something. So in 1950s is when the real need for college skyrocketed, or the desire. The U.S. moved from an agricultural to an industrial, and now they moved on to a globalization economy. So these changes in our lifeblood, which is our economic system, has driven our need for knowledge. Where mom and pop and grandpa and what you grew up with used to be able to teach you how to farm and the best ways to do it, and almanacs and how to weld or whatever. Well, grandpa and them couldn't teach you about globalization. So there was a higher need for a formal education because you couldn't really get it at home. Now, how has the price of college changed since the establishment of colleges in America? Well, according to John Finland, an author of Why Did College Cost So Little Back Then, says the cost of college has not changed over the years in relative dollars. That can be argued, but that's his opinion. State colleges started charging tuitions in the 60s. Prior to that, state colleges didn't charge for tuition. They charged for books and other things, but you could go for free because your tax dollars or somebody's tax dollars paid for it. Well, they started charging in the 60s. Colleges and universities were created for numerous reasons. Mostly, technology required more facilities. More facilities required more equipment in the colleges because they were becoming more and more competitive. And all this required more administration to draw in more students. It wasn't the instructors or the professors, it was all the administration that actually drove up the cost of college to today's rates. How has the availability of credit changed over the years? The availability of credit's been around for thousands of years. Credit really got started in the 1920s when the automobile came out, and they made it more available for appliances, Frigidaires, and cars. It didn't really become an issue with college until the government stepped in again in the 60s, technically 1958, and started the federal national, oh, I didn't get the names here. There it is, the National Defense Education Act of 1958, better known as the Perkins Loan, that ceases to exist as of last September. It finally ended. The Perkins Loan is it's federal dollars, is what they were giving everybody, or loaning everybody. And sometimes it was grant. That's where the debt started. Now, is paying the college loan a personal choice or a financial limitation? Well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I say the problem is a personal choice of not limiting non-essential amenities in life, which has resulted in a financial limitation. If you spend too much on one thing, you can't afford the other. The economy of today is rapidly changing. People must become fluid with the decision because flexible is too rigid. If you have a personal choice not to get the right job or not to pay the bill that you created, then you are the culprit. I have a few statistics here. This is back from 1870 through 2010, a chart every 10 years that comes off of, not NCIS, but NCES, the National Statistics of Education, National Center of Educational Statistics. They've been tracking it forever. As you see, if you look at a broad look, I told you we're gonna take a broad look. Do you see any giant spikes here? It's pretty much gradual increase. This is how many institutions just in the United States. In 1880, there were less than 1,000. Now, there's closer to 4,500. But there's been a gradual increase over the last 150 years. Okay, how about the amount of faculty, number of teachers and stuff? Now we're going back to 1880, there was a lot of spikes. The faculty didn't really drive up the cost. The faculty drove the fact that you had GI Bills and an influx of personnel going, but this doesn't directly correlate with debt. Keep in mind, we're talking about the debt. So faculty wasn't the issue. Total fall enrollment. Of course, they had to pick a point in time along the years to systematically draw it out. Back in the it wasn't even on the chart, it was less than a few hundred. The turn of the century, we were still less than 1,000. At the turn of the 21st century, we were close to 15 million. But again, as you can see, there's a steady, gradual increase of students. Okay. The expenditures of college, starting way back here at $0, and this only goes back to 1930, because that's really when they started kicking out some money, but that was with the GI Bill. Now we're up to over $600,000. Now look at the debt. This only goes back to 1990. But the debt has gone from about $10,000 a person to what they said in 2014, a little over $30,000 a college student. So I'd offer this in a conclusion. You hear quite a bit about debt, colleges, careers, the future of America, and a mind-boggling amount of statistics to over-explain what the college loan problem is. Sometimes you wonder if the problem is real or perceived. If there's a simple solution or a complicated solution, or maybe there's no solution. What is the purpose of the person explaining the college loan problem? Is it to reduce your loans, to keep the loans going, to make money off of an already complicated system? Everything mentioned is true. There is a real problem. Most explanations are self-serving, either for your business or your vote. And it depends on the solution being provided as to the motives of the speaker. In the end, the adult student creating the loan is the culprit for the amount of college debt in America today.
Good job.